Welcome back to another episode of the Talk Sox Minor League Podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm planning to cover all things minor league baseball within the Red Sox organization, from the Fenway Greens to sunny Fort Myers and everything in between. This past week, we had a rather eventful time throughout the entire organization. I mean, how else do you describe something that involves literally 6 members of your coaching staff getting fired, or I guess if we want to be technical, what is it? It's 5 being fired and Veritek being reassigned, which, as we all know, it just means he's not coming back. But anyway, with that though, we're going to touch on it briefly. But first, there's one topic that I really want to get on first, and that is the Portland Sea Dogs and what they managed to do on Sunday. Obviously, everyone knows after Saturday, their manager, Chad Epperson, he gets brought up to the Major League coaching staff and becomes the new third base coach under Chad Tracy. Well, with that going on, they get a new manager, and in his very first game, what do the Sea Dogs do? They throw a no-hitter. But it's not a unique... it is unique. I had my words mixed up. It's a unique no-hitter, considering how it unfolds. So first off, you have Hayden Mullins. He begins the game, and he tosses 5 shutout innings. But that doesn't mean there was no base runners. He ends up walking, I believe it was 5 guys, which... whatever, walks happen. Doesn't give up a single hit. But in the 3rd inning, there's an error that allows 2 guys to score. So they're actually losing at one point in this no-hitter. Following that, though, Mullins, he pitches his 5 innings. I guess I said shutout, but they're not really shutout. But, I mix things up quite a bit sometimes. But... so we're going to ignore that I said shutout. Instead, we're going to say he threw his 5 innings. He gave up a couple of runs because of an error. He gave up 5 walks. He struck out, I believe it was 5 batters. And after the 5th inning, he gives way to the bullpen with the no-hitter still intact. First to come out is Caleb Bolden. He goes 2 innings, doesn't allow a hit. And then for the 8th and 9th, you have Radis Sena. He comes out. He throws 2 hitless innings. And by this point, the Sea Dogs, they had come back and they were now leading 3-2. So in the end, they end up winning on a no-hitter in a game where they gave up 2 runs. And it was against the Yard Goats, who, still a little bit confusing of why Colorado Rockies minor league franchise is on the complete other side of the country for them. You can argue with the Red Sox. We have Salem, which is down in Virginia, and we have Greenville, which is down in South Carolina, but that's a little bit closer than, Hartford, Connecticut, and Colorado. But I don't know. I am not involved when it comes to deciding where minor league franchises go. But anyway, Mullins, he's someone that interests me, not just from this season, but also last year. We had him on during the offseason for one of our Talk Sox interviews. If you haven't watched it, it's up on our YouTube channel, and you can find it along with a write-up of it on our site, talksox.com. The reason why I found him interesting is because last year going into the Rule 5 draft, I thought he was going to get taken. He had a great season in Double-A, and he started the year in High A. He dominated there. He goes to Double-A. Double-A, he makes 18 starts, strikes out 96 batters and 84 2/3 innings. That's pretty good. Even if he ends up into the bullpen, that is still an arm that I thought a team would have taken a chance on. I honestly believed that going into the Rule 5 draft, we were going to have someone be taken. Or, well, we did have someone taken, but someone would take Mullins. Instead, we had Paez that was taken by the White Sox, which that pick surprised me. I figured they would have taken someone like Mullins, stick him in the bullpen, and use him as a 1 or 2 inning reliever. He's a left-hander who can get strikeouts. To me, that's valuable, right? Is that not valuable? But I guess no one wanted to take him. Maybe it was because the Red Sox never brought him up to AAA last year, so they didn't see how close to the majors he was. But this year, he has had some... how do I want to word this? I don't want to say issues, but there has been controls going on. There has been walks. But in 4 starts this year, he's tossed 16 2/3 innings, and he's struck out 24. Even if there are walk issues, if he's in the bullpen and he's throwing 1 to 2 innings a game, you can live with that because of the strikeouts that he gets. They counteract each other in a way. I mean, yeah, putting runners on base is not always the best, and it puts you in a dangerous situation at times, but it is what it is. However, because of how his stuff is, and in my opinion, it's rather good, I would say that even with the belief that he'll end up in the bullpen because of past injuries and control issues, if I'm the Red Sox, I continue to leave him in the rotation until he proves that he's better off in the bullpen. I mean, yes, in Boston, our rotation is set for many years. We got Crochet, we got Suarez, Tolley, Early, and I guess technically Bayo, but I mean, who knows how much longer he's going to be in this rotation with the way that he's pitching. I mean, today, again, didn't even make it out of the 4th inning, but maybe that might have been a quick pull by Chad Tracy, but I don't know. But the point is, Bayo has not been pitching like himself this year, and we have a lot of young, talented pitching coming up through the system, so he may not be in the rotation next year. Who knows? But point being, with Mullins, even with all that depth, and I mean, those 5 guys, Crochet went on the IL today, so most likely Jake Bennett is going to get called up, and he's going to pitch most likely Friday. You still got Suarez, you got Tolley, you got Early, you got Bayo, and then on the IL, Crochet, Sonny Gray, Cutter Crawford, Johan Oviedo, Patrick Sandoval. Like, they have so much depth that I wouldn't blame them if they wanted to move Mullins into the bullpen and see if maybe that gets him up to Boston faster and they can get a look at him across the season and decide what they want to do. But if I'm the Red Sox, I keep him in the rotation. I keep his development as a starter for the time being and see what you have there. Right? I mean, nothing can go wrong. It's easier to shorten a pitcher's workload than it is to stretch them out once the season gets going. But that's enough of that. At least this week. We'll probably end up touching on Mullins again later in the season, especially once his eventual, and I'm expecting it to happen at some point, promotion to Worcester occurs. We're definitely going to end up talking about him again. But for right now, we got bigger news. Anyone who has followed the Red Sox, unless you live under a rock, and unless you skipped also the first 8 minutes of my rambling, you would know that the Red Sox relieved Alex Cora and a lot of his coaches from their positions this past weekend, which in my opinion, it was a surprise. They're coming off a 17-1 win, and then they get let go. Would have made sense if they lost 17-1, but the way that it all played out, and it probably is because I have read other things, that this was something that was coming for a while now. Obviously, ownership decided to side with Breslow in this case, and with that, Cora was gone, Veritek was gone, Fatsy, Hudson, Dylan Lawson. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Ramon Vasquez, and there was one other guy. I can't remember his name. He was let go as well. So they full bloodbath. Which, I'm not going to lie, the whole event, bit of a shock with how quickly things played out, at least quickly on our end, because, as you know, from reading articles and everything, ownership had this already going on. They had this idea that it was time to move on, time to go in a new direction, and they were going to go with Breslow over Cora. Last time something like this happened, they went with Cora, and they let Chaim Bloom go, which personally, I think Bloom should have got the 2024 season to see his vision through. It was clear he had a 4-year plan starting in 21. He started overhauling the farm system, getting things better. 22, they missed the playoffs that year, but it was what it was. I definitely think in 22 they should have sold at the deadline, but whatever. 23 they fell apart in the second half, but you could start to see the farm system becoming what Bloom wanted. And that was where I think he should have had 2024 to see the last year of his vision through. Instead, Bloom gets shown the door. Breslow comes in. We have another losing season in 24. And then that offseason, we trade for Crochet. We sign Bregman. 25, we make the playoffs. And now we're here where we get off to what was the worst start by a Red Sox team since 1996. Yeah, they had a worse start than even the 2012 team, which is honestly scary because of how awful that team was. I mean, you had Bobby Valentine and Euclid going at each other. That I still remember that whole team. I wish I could forget it. I was in high school. It was just an awful year. I was so worried going into 2013 at first, but then they got rid of Bobby Valentine, and I was so glad. But I'm getting off topic. Anyway, story time. With the way that things played out, it was actually I don't want to say fun, but it was interesting on my end because, and if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I have media credentials, press access at Worcester at Polar Park, all thanks to the guys at Talk Sox. You know, they put me in for it, and I got approved. So I've been going there as media. I've been able to go into the clubhouse before games, talk to some guys, talk to, at the time, Chad Tracy. I got to talk to Iggy Suarez on Sunday a little. Well, not really myself. I only got in a few words because of, like, I didn't want to step on or overstep boundaries and whatnot because there are more established or veterans there, I guess. I don't know the exact wording, but in short, I'm the new guy, and I don't want to overstep things. But point being, Saturday, I was up in the press box when the Carabas tweet went out. Actually, I first saw it not on Twitter, but I had gotten it from a fellow Talk Sox writer and host of the Major League podcast for the Talk Sox, Alex. He had shared it, and when I saw that, I was just like, I made a joke at first. I'm like, I have no clue what the Red Wedding or whatever it is from Game of Thrones, where I guess they kill everyone or whatever. I don't know. Point being, when that came out and when I got sent that, I kind of just lost attention to the game, and I just kept scrolling on my computer trying to find anything that could kind of hint at what was going on. Before the news broke, I got told that it was Cora, but I had nothing to back that up or confirm it, so yeah, so instead I just kind of ignored that, and then I waited until Jared Carabas sent out the list of who got let go. Though, of course, as this is going on, Tom Castle of the TNG, and I'm sorry if I said his name wrong, he was also in the press box. He's there, I want to say, every night. A great guy, great coverage of the Woo Sox. And I want to say it was like the 7th inning, maybe the bottom of the 7th, top of the 8th, roughly, I think. I don't remember the exact time because I'm not going to lie. Once this Carabas tweet came out, I was kind of losing track of stuff trying to find any more information. But I want to say it was like the end of the 7th inning. He leaves the press box. And within the 8th inning, he sends out a tweet. I have his notifications on because, like I said, he does great coverage with the Woo Sox. So if he puts something out, it's probably something important with the Woo Sox. And his tweet actually says that, like, Chad Tracy had been out of the dugout for a few innings. And at that point, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, okay, we don't have a list of who's been fired yet, but Chad Tracy is not in the dugout, so he's probably getting ready to head to Baltimore to join the big league club. So one of 2 things happened. Either Cora got let go, or Ramon Vasquez got let go. That was my guess. One of those 2. Instead, it was much bigger than what anyone thought. I don't think anyone expected, like, as many coaches to get fired as they did. But with that, once I saw that once it was announced that Cora was out and Chad Tracy was actually going to be the interim manager for the Boston Red Sox, I actually decided I was going to hang around a bit longer. I was going to leave once the game was over, head home, write up some stuff, and instead that comes out and I say, okay, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to stay as long as I can. So I went down to the tunnel to go to the clubhouse, and I waited there for a bit only to find out that the clubhouse would be closed to the media that night, which I don't blame them with everything going on. So I kind of that night waited around in the tunnel outside the clubhouse for about another The game ended a little after 7. I went down there. I stayed down there until like, I want to say it was like 8:15, maybe almost 8:20, and then I called it a night because no one was coming out, which I don't blame them. You know, you have something big like that going on. So I went back up to the press box, grabbed my laptop, grabbed my backpack, and I headed home, and I started writing stuff up. And so that was my Saturday night during this whole event, which I'm not going to lie, it was a learning experience. And I wish I could have been there for when Tracy left, just to see how it all went down. But yeah, Sunday morning, I went back. Iggy was there. A bunch of the players were there, and, you know, they... Sundays, you don't really normally go into the clubhouse. Not because you're not allowed to, but it's kind of like, it's a 1 p.m. start time. So at that point, access to the clubhouse gets closed off at noon. So if you're going to go in there, you kind of got to get there by 10 in the morning or so. And most players, it's kind of an unwritten thing where you give them the Sunday off from being asked questions. Of course, with what had happened, that wasn't the case. We were allowed, it's not like we're not allowed to go in on Sundays, but it's more, like I said, unwritten. You give them that day, or at least that's what I had been told by people, because I normally don't go on Sundays, just because for me it's not worth getting there so early. But anyway, so some of the players, they were talking, and all you hear about Chad Tracy is positive things. Not only did I talk to some of the guys currently on the team, but I reached out to some of his former players as well that had previously played in Worcester. And it's just everyone I heard from and everyone that I talked to that day, all you had was positive stuff about Tracy. You hear stuff like he's a great manager, he's a player's manager, he doesn't let his ego get in the way, he's a calming voice. One of my favorites was, I believe it was from Nick Sogard. He said that Tracy gets the respect of everyone in the room. And there was another thing that he found interesting, or I found interesting, of what he said of how he's been in Worcester for quite a few years. For those who don't know, Nick Sogard, he got called up to Worcester roughly halfway through 2022, and he's been up and down from Boston since then. He said how he has been there for so long that he's seen so many, he's been involved and watched all his different like teammates get the call and watch them pack their suitcase, and they put it in the travel cart that brings it out to the players' lot, and they head off to Boston or to the airport or whatever. And he said something unique was he got to see someone who, he got to see someone that he was close with, because again, Tracy has been his manager on and off for like 5 seasons now. He got to see someone like Chad Tracy get the call and go out with the cart instead. But with it, it's not just Tracy going up to Boston. Also joining him from Worcester is Colin Hetzler, who's going to be one of the... I don't know the exact term they're using. He's not the hitting coach, because I think they're using hitting instructor group or something like that for the remainder of the season. I don't know, it's weird. But also from around the organization, they have Pablo Cabrera, Chad Epperson, John Soteropoulos. I don't know. I can't pronounce that name. And Jack Simonetti. I probably butchered that one too. And they were all promoted to the major league staff. Again, even some of the other players, when I asked about Tracy, they also talked about how great Epperson was, saying that he, the two of them, they couldn't be happier for them. But with that, we're gonna go back into the Portland Sea Dogs for a moment, like very brief moment. We're not gonna stay long. Portland, they lost their manager, and taking over as of now as the acting manager is Kyle Sasala. And he's going to be in a role much like how Iggy Suarez is with Worcester, where the two of them are the acting managers of their respective teams for the time being. I'm assuming, Both of them will be the manager of said teams until the end of the season. I would not be surprised if Suarez is just named Worcester's manager. I guess that all kind of has to play out with what's going on with Chad Tracy and if he's up in Boston or if he'll eventually come back to Worcester. That's a matter of time and waiting to understand what's going to go on. But anyway, Suarez, though, he has managerial experience within the Red Sox. Fun fact, he was drafted by the Red Sox in 2003, made it all the way to Pawtucket in 2009, and then he got let go. He spent a few years in independent ball, and then he comes back and he works as a coach. Well, he was a player coach for the Lowell Spinners. That was 1 year. And then he gets moved to, I believe it's a hitting instructor his second year. After that, he coaches as the manager for the Spinners for a couple years before moving up to Greenville. And he becomes the Drives manager in 2018. And through the 2024 season, he coaches the Drive. So that means he actually was the manager of guys like Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Nick Sogard, Marcelo Meyer, all these young guys that came up through the Drive between 18 and 24. Suarez helped develop them as well. So, it's very much similar to how Tracy did a lot of the development of a lot of the guys that are on the Boston roster right now. I had the number written down in an article that I wrote about Chad Tracy. I believe it was 13 of the 26 active men on the roster he had coached in AAA. I guess technically now it's 14 out of 26 with Nate Eaton being brought up. Including rehabs, that number is now 17 out of the 26 guys on the roster were coached by him when he was in AAA. It's very much a roster made up of guys that he has worked with over the past 5 years. I won't lie, though, with how the organization is kind of signaling we're in a transitional period, it's a bit weird. I mean, last year, you look at it, and you think our window for a championship is open. We got Crochet, we had Bregman, Anthony made his debut, Meyer made his debut, Tolley made his debut, and then all this stuff happens. We lose Bregman to free agency. We don't improve the offense as much as we should have. Contreras is a nice piece, but we needed another big bat. If we had had Contreras and we kept Bregman, our lineup would look a lot different right now, and we'd probably have a better record. And likely Cora and the rest of the coaching staff would probably still be here, but what do I know? Anyway, not to ramble. Even with that, there is still some positive things to look at with this organization. And we're just going to finish this episode by going through a few players that should be highlighted for how they're doing right now. We're going to start with a player that I was really high on last year. And then as the season went on, I didn't lose interest in him, but I would say other prospects I gained more interest in. And then this year, he's really hitting much better than I ever expected. And he's gained all my interest right back. And that would be Franklin Arias, the 20-year-old shortstop in Portland right now. This kid, when he opened the year last year in Salem, I was a huge Franklin Arias fan. When he went to Greenville, I was a huge fan. And then as the season was getting closer to an end, I was like, oh, well, Tolley's my number one now. And then they draft Henry Godbout, and I'm like, he's also pretty high for me. Dorian Soto, he's high. Gonzales, all these guys. And and because of that, Arias, I wouldn't say I lost any hope in, but it was just more of I kind of didn't fall as much. And he ended the season strong with Portland, but that, of course, was 10 games, so you can never put too much into that. So this year, he's cooled off a little, but he's still hitting as we're getting towards the end of our first full month of minor league baseball. He's hitting 407. He's getting on base at a 471 clip, and he's got an 831. He has flashed a lot more power than expected this year. He's got 7 home runs. He's driven in 18 runs. And fun fact, those 7 home runs he's hit in the first month of the year, that's one less than he hit in all of 2025. Like, if this power is real for Arias and he becomes a 20 to 25 home run hitter, and this isn't just him getting real hot, he could have transformed himself as a prospect. He goes from a guy who's viewed as a pretty great contact hitter with an amazing glove, and if he becomes like this all-around player, his speed isn't really much to go for, but if pretty much he becomes like a 4-tool player with his glove, his arm, contact hitting, and power hitting, this changes the outlook of his development. I mean, next year we could be having him as the starting shortstop if he doesn't fall off. Obviously, we got to worry about Trevor Story right now, but if he keeps hitting like this, like, I didn't think he'd get up to Worcester until probably like the trade deadline when we move someone in a trade, but if he's hitting like this, we have to move him up sooner. And I wouldn't be surprised now if it's like Memorial Day weekend, he gets brought up to Worcester. Of course, you don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen, but this kid is, once again, getting people talking about him. I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted he'd have 7 home runs, and I believe it's like 19 games played. Of course, with Arias, and this is a thing with a lot of the younger players as well, I would like to see his walk rate a little higher. It's not awful. He's roughly like 7.5%, but there's room for improvement, and he's got time to improve. It's not bad, though, because he's only striking out roughly 10% of his at-bats, so you can live with it. He doesn't really wait around much. He likes to swing. He's very much like Cedon in that sense where he likes to swing, but it's not like he's chasing pitches. He knows the strike zone, and he won't expand it too often. There are times where he can get tricked into chasing, but for the most part, he's not going to chase, but he's also not going to sit around and, wait. Personally, and I'm not going to, have this be like, oh, this is the one thing I hate, and I think he's not going to turn out well because of it, but personally, I would love to see if he could get that walk rate up to double digits, even if it's just like 10%. Like, I would love to see that. Another thing that I have enjoyed seeing from him, he's pulling the ball. It's at a respectable 49.1%. I believe last week we said that his pull number was very high, but this week it's it's dropped a little. Obviously, these numbers are going to change week to week, but for the most part, 49.1% is pretty good. Especially, you get him up to Fenway and he's pulling it, and if he can get it into the air, he's going to take advantage of the Green Monster. Now, that's just me. And as I said before, I didn't think he was going to get up to Worcester too early in the season. I mean, Worcester has a lot of infielders. Like, even at Media Day, I talked to Mickey Gasper, and I asked if there was going to be any plans for him to get any action at second base. He told me catcher and first base for in-game action, but because of the loaded infield they had, he was likely only going to get second base time, like if he took grounders during batting practice or in fielding practice, just because of how many guys there were. So because of that, I did not think Arias would get to like AAA too early in the season, but I think if he continues what he is doing, how do you not put him up there? Like, again, I think it's going to end up being like around Memorial Day weekend or like the first week of June, we're going to get that notification Franklin Arias has been promoted to AAA Worcester. And joining Arias as like a positive within this organization, you can't not talk about Justin Gonzales. This kid is only 19 years old. Like, he's got over half a foot on me, and he's still probably going to grow another inch or two. And I mean, despite just being 19 years old, in his first full season at High A, remember last year he ended the year with Greenville and he struggled a little. But this year, now he's hitting 284, 348, 481. He's got 4 home runs, he's got 14 RBIs, and these 4 home runs already, it ties all of the home runs he hit last year. He had 4 home runs in Salem last year, and this year in the first month with Greenville, he's already tied that. Like, this kid, I think he's going to end the year in Portland this year, but I don't think he's going to make the majors until 28. That's just my personal opinion. I think they're going to take a little bit of time. He's going to be 19 next year. Well, he is 19. Next year he's going to be 20, And I think he's going to be 21 when he makes his major league debut. Coming into this season, there was some slight concerns in his batted balls. For a guy his size, he was hitting too many of them on the ground. But now he's improving it slightly. He dropped it nearly 10%. Last year, he was hitting balls on the ground at 57%. This year, it's down to 47.7%. And it's a small improvement. But with everything, when you have a small improvement, it's a small step forward. And once you get enough small steps, then you've got 1 foot out the door. And just like that old song, put 1 foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door. And once, I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know. Sometimes I just ramble and I let my thoughts just leak out when they shouldn't. But point being, little steps. Once you start putting little steps together, you start taking bigger steps, and you take the bigger steps, and you just start doing better. No one starts off from 0 and goes right to 100. They work their way up, and that's what Justin Gonzales is doing. And again, just like Arias, I would like to see a little bit more walking. His is even lower. It's only 6.7%. I believe his strikeout rate is around 18, which, I mean, yeah, for someone like him, he's still younger. He's developing against pitching that is much older than him, especially at Greenville. He's gonna get fooled at times, and he's gonna strike out, which is why I would like to see his walk rate improve. Same thing, if he could get it up to like 8 or 9% this year, I could really like that. Of course, ending this, we still got a few more guys, but a lot of them are going to be from Greenville. Because, and I stress this way too often, watch the Greenville Drive games. For minor league baseball, this is probably one of the more talented teams in the Red Sox organization right at this moment. And I don't know how long it's going to stay that way because these guys could move through the system quick. So the next guy is Henry Godbout. Again, he's another guy that I've been high on. Story behind him, when he got drafted, I didn't think too much of it. And then that night, I didn't think too much because I don't really follow college baseball much. Most of my time it goes Red Sox, and then after that, it's like all the minor league systems. I'm sorry, not systems. All the minor league organizations for the Red Sox, I follow. Like, that's where all my time goes, and I don't really look into college because of that. But after we drafted him that night, I spent time looking it up, and I said, okay, I really like what I see from this kid. I think he could be a very Dustin Pedroia-like player, at least offensively, especially once he gets into our bat speed program. Well, he starts the season off slow this year. He actually misses the first 3 games because of some travel issue. And then when he gets going, he starts off, I believe he went hitless his first 2 or 3 games, or he might have had 1 hit in like his first 11 at-bats. But now he's up to 288, 391, 492 with 3 home runs. And like, if you haven't jumped on the Godbout bandwagon, do it. This kid is going to turn into another great prospect with how he's been hitting. Especially, like, he's walking in just under 12% of his at-bats, and he's striking out in just under 16%. You can't complain too much. The kid's seeing the ball well. He gets drafted last year, and the big question is, how is he going to do hitting-wise in this organization in minor league baseball? And a lot of people, myself included, felt once he got into the Red Sox bat speed program and had time working in it, he was going to develop and he was going to move quick. Well, he has an entire offseason of working on his swing, and now that seems to be the case as he has been rather locked in since he got going this season, and it's good, like, not just hoping for the player to do well, but as an organization as a whole, because this kid, coming into the year, I had a prediction saying he was going to go from Greenville and end the year in Worcester. He was going to have a Christian Campbell season. Of course, that might not happen because I did not think some of the minor league veteran guys that they signed for Worcester were going to get off to as good starts as they have. And because of that might change it and say that he's only going to be in Portland. Either way, he's not going to finish the year in Greenville with how he's playing. Now, we got 2 guys left, really. One I think we all know where I'm going with this one. Like I say every week, all eyes on Eyanson. This is no surprise. You know him. He's great. I love talking about him, and you should all love watching him. Anthony Eyanson, when you think he can't do anything more than he's already doing, he steps it up a notch. Latest start, what does he do? He only goes out there and he throws 4 1/3 hitless innings. Yeah, he doesn't get out of the fifth. But who cares? Because when you're at this point, it's not about going deep into games. It's about seeing what they can do. And the fact that he took a no-hitter into the fifth inning and he left with a no-hitter, like, come on. How's he going to one-up this? Is he going to throw a perfect game next? I mean, as it is, he hasn't walked anyone all year. He's thrown 16 2/3 innings. Not a single walk. He's struck out 27 batters. That's a 27 to none strikeout to walk percent. Like, his strikeout to walk ratio is infinity because he hasn't given up a walk. How can you not watch this kid and not get excited? Through his 16 2/3 innings, he's given up 1 run, and that was on a home run in his first start of the year. Like, he's something special. And in my opinion, this is what they need in their system. They need to develop this front of the line ace potential starting pitching, because someone like Eyanson, as he moves through the system with his competitive nature, he's gonna make that nature contagious to the other pitchers he plays with, and it's only gonna fuel everyone to get better. I mean, you see it already. Eyanson and Witherspoon talked the organization into letting Marcus Phillips join them in Greenville. I mean, otherwise he was going to be in Salem. The three of them believe they push each other to get better, and I honestly believe it. Especially, if you're Witherspoon and you're Phillips and you see Eyanson go out and do this, now you're going to think stuff like, this guy is great, and I want to be right with him as he moves along, because we're going to be the next big three. They already are. They're already the next big three of this organization, and they want to stay together. Now, unfortunately, well, actually, let me finish about Eyanson. Just a quick little note: he's striking out 14.5 batters per 9 innings, and his strikeout rate is 48.2. He's striking out nearly half of all the batters he's facing. Like, that's just crazy. But with that, though, we do have some negative news, I guess, in a sense you can say, about Juan Valera. So remember last week when we talked about him, when I said I did not like how it went from not needing an MRI to flying to Boston to get an MRI within like the span of 24 hours? Well, now he is seeking a second opinion. We don't know much, but whatever was told to him in Boston, he's seeking a second opinion on his elbow. And usually when you get a second opinion, that's because it's not good. So one of two things is going to happen. He's going to get shut down, and he's going to miss a good portion of the season, or he's going to get surgery. And either one is not good. Like, it's just awful. This kid is so talented, and he gets hurt now. Like, instead, he should be pitching, he should be doing well, and he should be looking like he's ready for Portland. But now that's all derailed, and we got to wait a bit. But to get back onto positive stuff, now is the time that we're going to congratulate Jason Gilman for making his professional debut. For those who have watched our off-season interviews, Gilman was the last one we did before spring training ended. We actually did the interview with him. He was down in Fort Myers when we did it. Very nice guy, very good pitcher. He got added to Salem last week, and he made his debut over the weekend on Saturday. In it, he pitched 2 innings, and he walked the very first batter he faced. And after that, though, that was it. That was all she wrote. He gets 6 straight outs after that, including 5 strikeouts. Now, obviously, Gilman's not someone that's on a lot of the top prospect rankings for the Red Sox. He's not someone that a lot of people would know because he was a later draft pick. But despite that, he's someone that could be very interesting. So As Gilman admitted in his interview with us, increasing his velocity and working on his condition and getting stronger were all key aspects of his training when he got drafted. He said, compared to the other pitchers, he was one of the smaller guys. So his whole thing was getting more muscle, getting stronger, being in better shape so that, he could throw harder and, his stamina was good, which if you guys don't know, his last game in college, I believe it was like 154 pitches he threw. He won a complete game. He actually knocked off the number one seed in the NCAA Division III baseball, College World Series playoffs. Of course, that was the last time he pitched in college, and it was probably one of his best games. And because of that, he's someone that I'm interested in seeing how he develops, because there's two things he does very well. He throws strikes, and he can get innings. Get innings. He throws innings. Get innings doesn't make any sense. But with it, he, with his velocity being a bit lower, I believe it was like 91, 92. Saturday, they did say that he hit 94 at least once. So that's already an improvement. If he can throw 94 out of the bullpen, you kind of like that. You get 94 miles per hour with him, and you give him in a 1 or 2 inning role. Maybe it works out in the bullpen, especially for the long run, But it is what it is. Again, just wanted to mention him and say congratulations for your professional debut. We're going to be looking forward to seeing what you do the rest of the season. So now we're kind of winding down, but the FCL is starting up soon. May 2nd, games will begin. So this Saturday, we're gonna start having games going on for the FCL. And myself, there's a few players down there, namely Conrad Kaysen and Dorian Soto. Those are the two big names that I'm keeping an eye on. I want to see how Kaysen plays as he continues to return from Tommy John surgery. It's already known he's not pitching at all this year. But how does his offense develop? Is he going to play any of the field? Is he going to play second base? Or is he just going to DH? These are all things that I want to watch and see. Otherwise, like Dorian Soto, he's someone that I want to see how he transitions to stateside baseball, because this is going to be his first time here, which it's going to be interesting. Kid is viewed as a very top prospect within the Red Sox organization. Most lists have him top 10. And so I want to see how he handles playing in the U.S., because I think if he gets off to a good enough start in the FCL, he could follow suit to what they did last year with Justin Gonzales, where Gonzales plays just one game in the FCL, and then they sent him to Salem. I don't think Soto is going to get the whole one game and then to Salem, but I do think he gets to Salem before the end of the season. And with that, though, despite the chaos this past week, I still believe the organization is in good hands and we're moving forward. And that is definitely true with the minor league team. I believe everyone, despite the coaching overhauls, are in good hands, and we're going to move forward just fine. Obviously, there's going to be some confusion as these minor league positions are going to have to get filled by outside hires. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how that came out. But anyway, so outside hires are definitely going to have to fill in these minor league positions that are missing. Time's going to tell, though, how the season goes on. But personally, I think the minor league organizations are going to be just fine, and it's going to be a great season. But again, time will tell. For now, all we can do is just watch the games and hope, Just hope for the best, root for Chad Tracy up in Boston, and all these minor league teams just got to hope for the best. Just not, don't got to worry about wins as much. Actually, let me go off topic for a second. That reminded me, in Sunday when I was in the clubhouse, I forget who yelled about it, but they were joking because in the press conference I think it was Breslow and Sam Kennedy's press conference, or maybe it was Chad Tracy, I don't remember. It must have been Chad Tracy. No, I don't know. I don't want to put a name to it because I can't remember who it was, but one of them, somehow something got mentioned that, AAA wins aren't as important, and the clubhouse started making a joke out of that. They were like, he's saying AAA wins aren't important, like pretending to be all upset, and they're laughing about it because they know it's true. But, of course, it's the AAA team, so they're going to pretend. It was just a funny little moment, I felt. Anyway, again, all we can do is hope for the best. And from me to you, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please leave a like and share the video if you're watching from YouTube, as it helps the channel grow. If you aren't on YouTube, please share the link in general, as it helps us grow, not just as a podcast, but as a website in general. Once again, thank you, and have a nice day.